Hi, this is Dr. Sweta Adatia and welcome to the Limitless Brain channel. So I was very young when I was about 16 years when I asked my parents, why am I born? They were confused. They were like, what is the kid asking, And then, of course, to the surprise, they found somebody who they thought would answer my questions. And serendipitously, that was my spiritual teacher, Swamini Vimlananda. So I'm extremely grateful to this Guru Parampara, to Chinmay Mission, to many other institutions who led me to shape who I am today. And I think we all need to be grateful as well for the entire beautiful, amazing traditional system that we have. Let's talk about, since we're talking about the ancient traditions, let's talk about Sanskrit chanting for the schools and young children. How can it benefit? Now, I'm a huge fan of Sanskrit as a language. I think Sanskrit as a language is immensely scientific. And why do I say that? I want you to test a simple tonoscope, just make it at home. As I said, I love experimenting, doing something which is subjective, something which is experiential. So when you make a tonoscope, and if you don't know, you can just Google how to do a tonoscope or make a tonoscope, you will see that Sanskrit is one language which will give form when you are speaking through that in the tonoscope. You speak any other language, that will just be repetition of sounds, but Sanskrit will also give form. So Sanskrit is a very, very ancient language. It is not just limited to Indian context. There are countries such as Netherlands, Denmark, so many other countries who have adopted Sanskrit as one of the languages. Now, why are we talking of mantra chanting in the schools or in the younger children? There was a beautiful paper which was by Dr. Herzl and his colleagues, and I'm going to read who were the colleagues because I want to give them due credibility and importance, because this was the paper which showed us what is happening in the pundits when they are chanting the Vedic mantras onto their brain. The change in the hippocampus. Hippocampus is nothing but a small little structure which is allowing us to have the memory right, the short-term memory, attention as well to a little part, and then mostly the working memory. If I ask you right now, let's say 5, 7, 8, 14, 20, 30. If I ask you to remember that, your digit span will allow you to store that and then bring out after 5 minutes. If I ask you again, that becomes short term. If I ask you a day later, becomes relatively long term. And then if I ask you a year later, becomes long term. So memory has various stages, and we will talk in depth also as we go along in the memory. But let's come back to this Herzl effect, or the effect of chanting Sanskrit mantras, particularly on the brain. So this was in a collaboration with Dr. Tanmay Nath and Dr. Nandini Chatterjee at the National Brain Research Center in Haryana. So 42 volunteers were chosen, 21 were professionally qualified Sanskrit pundits, age was around 22, and they were trained full-time for 7 years in their childhood to recite particularly the Shukla Yajurveda. And these pundits were also from the Vedic Pandit school in Delhi, and there were some 21 aged match students which were from the nearby college. What was seen was significant and stark size difference or volume difference in this hippocampus. What was also seen, the connections between the two sides of the brain. The connections was very robust. There was also an increase in the volume, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, which we have been talking about. So chanting all these mantras, even though, mind my words, even though you do not know the meaning. As a child, we used to do these Gita chanting competitions and they don't know the meaning, but they're just chanting it so proficiently. Even that chanting with the intonations is making a change in the brain. Now the question comes is, if it's so simple, why don't we do it? This is of important, I would say, a question which we all have to ask ourselves. If we have something as simple, we are not here to, let's say, I want as a child to have the memory to be perfect, and I am here to basically help the child. And the entire education system is here to make the child's thinking processes consolidated, thinking processes strong, and memory is one important component of it. But not just the memory. When you are chanting the mantras, there is emotional regulation. Now you think that we as adults have all the emotional hulas around the world? Not really. Children, as they are growing, also have a substantial emotional problem which they go through, or emotional quotient which they are developing as they grow. Now what happens is the mirroring happens. They mirror an adult, and we often complain, oh, the child is always on the phone. Did you ask yourselves, are you doing that? Are you fighting at home? Are you not giving enough attention to your tasks? The child is merely mirroring you. The emotional development of the child is only by observing. In fact, there was a study, I get reminded, when there were infants which were studied, they were given different foods, and one of the foods had broccoli in that, and broccoli does not sound to be very interesting, but how does the child know that? How does that infant know that broccoli is not very interesting? The child never had the taste of it, because they showed that the adults were making all kinds of faces when they were eating that broccoli. So the children understand that when adults are making these emotional expressions, that means something is not right. So they learn from these emotional expressions. Children have a very heightened response to these emotional behaviors, emotional patterns. Now, obviously, all of you who have teen children at home, just imagine, and I have complete prayers to all the parents who are raising the teen children, because they have tsunami of hormones. Their prefrontal cortex is about to sort of bubble out. There's a lot of changes happening in the chemistry. There's lots of things in the hormones which are changing. So at that time, obviously, there's a lot of emotional upheaval also which is happening. Addictions, relationships, bunking schools, colleges. It is all a forced behavior from their brain, because the brain is now trying to create certain associations. There's a lot of things happening. So in that, particularly that age group also, when you are allowing these children to chant as a practice, everything which is consistent, everything which is daily, you are trying to make a change in their brain circuits, and not just in the emotional regulation. Chanting, number 3 effect of what chanting has shown is the clarity of thinking which emerges. Let's say you're solving a problem. There are many ways to solve a problem, right? But you have a certain X way and a Y way, or a Z way of solving a problem. But let's assume that there was a completely different P way of solving the problem, like completely unheard of, or a very innovative problem or innovative solution which could be solved. Now, if you are chanting, if you have developed that practice and those connections in the brains have formed, possibly you will pick up that P. And this applies very well to the school going children as well. Let me share a paper which was done, particularly a very wonderful paper on talking about the effects of Om chanting, particularly in the students. So when students were chanting Om on a daily basis, what was happening was there was a change in their regular study habits. They were learning faster. They were remembering things better. They were able to perform in their exams better. And this was a beautiful study which I would like to post it here as well for your extra understanding, because these are some nuggets, I would say. These are important I would say science or important references, which if we give also to our youngsters and make them show that this is the change what is happening in the brain, there is a better buy-in, there is a better objective assessment of that from their end as well. Because I know kids can be difficult, but it is our I would say job, it is our duty to give them these right sanskaras, give them these right techniques, and they often learn by seeing. Please remember that. So if I have a kid in the house, it is my job to practice a certain mantra, practice certain chanting, so that they can adapt from it, so that they can learn from it. Now, there's a lot which is spoken about the Sanskrit effect, and then the effect of different kinds of mantras. Can the mantras help in abundance? Can certain mantras help in prosperity? Yes, mantras have exceptional powers. There is no doubt about it. As I said, that Sanskrit was a form, a language which gave the form. Also, there are certain important intonations. So your balance of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system happens. The way you speak the sounds, both the brains are now working together. Symmetry is happening. Your default mode network, and that is nothing but your rumination. When I'm doing nothing, I go back to thinking, who am I? What was my past like? What is my future going to be? Your DMN activity slows down when you are chanting the mantra, which means now you can be in the present, you can be focused. And yes, of course, our children needs attention, they need focus, they need that extra memory, they need understanding, they need emotional regulation, they need an intuitive intelligence. We only keep talking about IQ. They really need to make a shift and also have that intuitive understanding of certain topics. They need that innovative intelligence, they need creativity, they need adversity quotient. All these 10 things that I'm talking about, everything is possible provided any of the mantra is taken, and if simply Om itself is enough. I was speaking in one of the previous topics also about Om chanting, and some of you were asking how to do that. So hang tight, we will be showing all those exercises as well. What is the best way? We will bring in experts. I am no expert, I'm a scientist who studies the effects, but we will bring in the proper people to make you understand how the chanting happens. And Swami Chinmayananda, the Chinmay Mission's founder, used to say that does not matter, meaning is immaterial. He started this Gita chanting thing, and I have seen with my own eyes, being with mission for long, that it definitely helps when we are teaching them in a young age, and then as they grow older, the meaning sort of comes through, the meaning quest comes through. We really don't need to bother any of that. My sincerest suggestions is, please show them a couple of papers, you start doing it. All the effects which are shown by Herzl, you can build it in your brain. It will be of benefit to you, and then of course to your children. So hang tight, and we talk about this abundance and prosperity mantra as well as we get along in the journey, and of course the neuroscience of it. Everything about this channel is all bringing science to daily lives, to your mental fitness, to your brain wellness, and to have a happy, successful, amazing life on this planet. Always ready to extend support, help, anything that you need. Please like, subscribe, and let us continue this journey together.